punish somebody else and not them. You think of that someone who you think it's a good riddance. What does suicide when it comes to mind? Or does it scare you because it has come so close calling that you know too well it's not a far-fetched conversation? Please move with the slide. Thank you. When I ask of your story could be advised by many things. It could be your personal experiences, it could be your cultural influences, it could be just ignorance. Ignorance means I don't know better. I just know, based on how we are nurtured, how we are raised, we come from very, very different environments. Some of us come from very secure and stable families. So you are never given a reason to feel that you don't belong. You are never given a reason to feel you're not good enough. So for you, anything you can attempt, like you can bounce on anything and try it because you know very well you have a fallback plan. You have very, very good support system. So nothing scares you. In you, you've been built and given the resources within you that try everything, we are here to support you. To other people, they come from such dysfunctional and stable backgrounds where nobody was there to work with you, to help you grow, to even instill in you the personality and characteristics that should endure for a lifetime. So have your life you've been fighting. Sometimes some of these things catch up with us over time. Maybe you were born in a stable home. Something happened along the way and that home became unstable and dysfunctional. It could have been a marriage. You came from a stable home to a marriage that you can't even understand what is happening right there. It could have been a happy home that got children who are quite dysfunctional in their own way, either because of, when you have neurodivergent and then you're here getting stressed up, then there is these issues we are having of job redundancies. So there are diverse reasons why life can take a very different trajectory. And these have the ability sometimes to test our resilience. And when it does, sometimes we withdraw. Sometimes we will keep telling people until they stop believing us. So, and sometimes you're just left by yourself. What's your story? Have you ever gotten to a point of feeling like you want to give up? Did you beat yourself because you felt like, why am I doing this? Did you even imagine that your family, your friends, they would be very, they will not be pleased? Why would you do that? And because of this stigma, we'd rather keep silent with our problems than talk about it. The next slide. For me, I will start from a very personal experience. And when I call it personal is because when the decriminalization of suicide in Kenya was happening and we were celebrating, we were also mourning this young girl here. I don't know how many people or how many of you know Charity Muturi. Charity Muturi was very key to have the bill on decriminalization of suicide in Kenya happen. But what happened? She never lived to see this pass. I'm sure you guys know the story about Charity Muturi. Despite having withstood difficult circumstances that we will find in part of the presentation, she was having her own struggles with mental health, and she was sharing her story in various platforms. She was struggling to support parents who are also having their own challenges with mental and neurological disorders. She fought, she went out, she knew what it means, and she lived the experience. She talked about it bravely. But one day, at Kemu, if you ever heard of that Kemu, a lady who jumped in that tower, that was Charity. Charity was close to me. Charity attended my forums. Charity shared her experiences. Charity was with me in the office the week before because there was a project that was happening and we had just signed. And sadly, we all felt Why didn't she tell us something? Why didn't she give us signs? Did we fail her? Why didn't we see it coming? And it took us such a long time to forgive ourselves for losing Charity. So Charity remains close to me. And for every time I talk about suicide, Charity is one of the people that is part of my story. But because she went ahead and gave us one thing that no one was brave enough probably to start for us, suicide is no longer a reason for a parent or a relative or the authority to say because you are attempting to take away your life, you're going to be imprisoned or you're going to be taken to the police station, as it would have been because it was seen as an illegality. Why is it then being given attention? And that is what I would want us to go through this evening. Carry on. It is for that reason you and I need to break the silence. And what does the silence look like? I have talked about that plant
Sheba.
that the plant that needs someone to water it, you know, but we do not speak loudly about these issues because I've said all those reasons why people would rather keep, because it is a sign of weakness in our society. So you do not want to be labeled or to be seen as if you're not pulling your weight. So the more we keep quiet, the more we allow stigma, the more we allow shame, the more we push these people away to isolation. And that is when it will happen without us noticing, because it doesn't shout. It comes gradually. It is a call, a scream, a very silent scream for help. But then when you think of how people are going to say, "We hutaki kukula ugali," you know, the way people just dismiss it, minimize it, and just think you're not the first person to lose a job. You're not the first person to lose a parent, not the first person to lose a child. And you're left to deal with your emotions because we do not want to hear you out. We want to tell you. So you're left with these unprocessed emotions, unprocessed feelings that have no letting, a let out to go. So every time someone is coming to tell you about the devastation they are going through, are you the kind that listens? Are you the kind that is quick to judge? Are you the kind that says, I wish I noticed? And remember, as much as we worked with our dear Charity, Charity was the strong one, the one who spoke about it. Even when we were in the office, there is no sign, but she was struggling because of the weight she was carrying within herself. Was she talking about it? Of course. But at some point, it became too much to bear because these are circumstances that were not changing. Up to today, we've never understood at what point did she give up. But let's keep talking because not all of us are capable to be talking like Charity was talking then. Some of us, you start once, you're ashamed, and you go back into yourself. Let's continue. And for all of us, the only little thing we are asking that we do is, what is this unspoken reality? Did you even know that people who commit suicide, the first thing, they're not always willing to say, I want to die. What they're actually dealing with is the pain. Pain that you cannot touch, you cannot see, you cannot even give a limit. You say that in 1 to 10, how much is that pain, the way we do medically? It is just a desire, a wish for this pain to go, in a way to just get a relief. Sometimes this is a relief probably if somebody listened to what I'm saying, or somebody heard what I'm going through, or the frustration, or not even understanding why the tunnel is so dark and I cannot see the light at the end of it. Am I even gonna see the day? I just need someone to tell you, hey, come on. You don't keep digging. It's time to come up. And I'll be here. I may not know what you're going through, But if you need somebody to speak to, I'll be here. And when you say it, mean it. Check on them. Be present. Just say, if you need something, just call me. They won't call you. You have to show the interest and concern, because already them coming out is such a struggle, because I have talked about the shame, the stigma, and sometimes preferring the silence. So most time people think it was very selfish of the person to kill themselves. While I don't doubt that cases are sometimes, may want to attract attention or sympathy. For people who have gone through the trenches, sometimes it's a call for help. But then we make people go into silence because we do not want to feel like we are giving other people too much to carry. Si kila mtu ako na shida yake. Everybody is going through a thing or the. But the truth is, all of us are built so differently that I could also be going through a thing. For example, right now, this whole week, I was telling my host that I was having too many things happening at the same time. I was, that you look forward to. I thank God it's Friday and it's coming because it's the last event I have to do. But at the end of the day, what I needed is somebody I can keep bouncing off my thoughts. But then I got to my friend who is also going through something, but she always had time to listen to me and tell me, okay, I think here we are doing well. I think here you can delegate. I think here all you need to do. She would call me on a daily basis because she knew this week was very difficult for me. Yet I would ask her, so how are you able to be and you're also going through? And she would separate that. So sometimes we could be all going through situations that are not related. And sometimes we can just create space, especially for people that you have, you care about, people you love. And sometimes just showing up, telling them I'm here if you need someone to talk to. And genuinely, as I've said, try and do it. Let's continue. Beyond the things that we usually say, what are the things? Alikuwa na depression. Depression is not the only thing that will make someone have the suicidal thoughts. Usually it is most commonly, but most of the mental health conditions, they have a way of affecting your brain capacity, affecting the quality of life, affecting how you process the things on a day-to-day basis, and therefore they sometimes become part of the many other reasons why people may feel suicidal. Think of someone who has witnessed war. Think of someone who has witnessed a very terrible accident. Think of somebody who has witnessed somebody they loved, be called home. Some of these things remain etched in their minds, and for some reason, they're not able to shake off. One of case that I have handled is where a client, their boss died in the office, and they were the first responders, and they were the first people to attempt giving him CPR, and the person didn't make it. Now, this person has lived with the blame of, what if I went to that office earlier? Because actually when he walked in, didn't look very okay. But because there was this report I needed to send ahead first to finish it, and then I go, then I will be able to see what happened. And that's what he did. So finished the report, walked to the office, and the site that he saw, the first thing is help, CPR, and the next thing pronounced. And he couldn't forgive himself. Now, what happened to him? He went from the trauma of the loss of this person who was very close to him in terms of acquittance in the workplace, to guilt of, I think I didn't do enough. And this is where now the biggest problem was, because they also felt they didn't deserve to leave. Why did I not do enough? Is there something else I could have done better? And this actually is one of the reasons why they felt they needed also not to leave. So some other conditions some other situations can happen, cause you severe mental health anguish, and at the same time depress you in a way that you don't feel the need and the desire to live, because you should have probably done better. It is where when a parent feels I should have been more present to, to help my child. And, because these days we are having also cases where we lose our children early, and it is not easy. And then because of our nonchalant way sometimes of responding, someone says, you're still young. By telling somebody you're still young, you're first minimizing their experience, you're minimizing their pain, and you're making them mistrust you. You're not the first person they would think of in case they were going through a distress, because already you're showing them, why you not moving on, because you're still young. So what does that statement mean? And this I've also heard from spouses when they lose their significant other, and people are like, oh, you guys were still young. So what does that mean? So we need to be present in a way that people are feeling okay to come to us. So even as we say, let's break the silence. To who are we breaking the silence? You who is listening to me. Can you be trusted by the person who is needing the help? Or are you so broken that you're not in a position to? And in the event you're not in a position to, have you tried to find the help? Because probably today you're going through this financial situation that is looking so insurmountable. Yeah, and it is embarrassing, least to say. Your kids were in this school that they're no longer able to go to that school anymore because you have to downgrade. You have probably to move from one estate to the other. Things are not looking up. So are you having a support system that you can rely on so that as you carry the family burden, that you have someone else to offload some of these things to? So when we talk about having to change the narrative, when we are talking about having to break the silence, do you know what are the things that you can look into? So it not only when people have depression, there are other things, pressure to appear strong. In our society, men will naturally not express themselves whenever they are going through the trenches or those difficult moments. Maybe they have lost their jobs, maybe they have lost their spouses, or maybe they're, just things are not working out. Businesses left, right, center, fraud, things that are happening, to people who are working very hard. And because they have to keep showing up, being strong sometimes is also an element of where that we hide, it's a silhouette. Before you realize, you're like, oh, we didn't know. And he looked like he was okay just because he did not say it. But we knew things were not very okay. But they didn't have a let out because the society demands or expects that a man should be stoic. People in chronic pain, people going through chronic illness like cancer, and someone feels, my family is going to spend so much, I'm going to leave them bankrupt. And they're here thinking maybe the easiest way, if I would be able to find a way to make this easier. Because even some diagnoses almost kind of like a life sentence, like death sentence rather, that I might not make it. So this person is going through a lot of thoughts and thinking, it's not worth, I will not make it. And so maybe the most distressing thing at that moment is how they can make it easier for themselves. And also some of these chronic illnesses are very painful. So how do I make it lighter for myself? So as I've said, when people are thinking of ending their lives, it's not because they are cowards. It's not because they don't care. It is sometimes dealing with the pain. How do I get done with this? Something else, please move to the next two slides because I think I've already got past two slides. The cultural silence is more seen in collective communities. Collective communities is like the African setup where we do things as as a family. We tend to do things together. Individualistic communities are like what you see in the Western countries. Now, because of the individualistic very different way of doing things, us in the collective cultures, there are things we even criminalize the way they should be done. And that's why we are happy that we have moved away from making suicide a criminal offense. it is a need for a medical intervention. Our culture says you're not praying enough. Umejaribu kuomba. You have not been very close to God. Try God and see. Maybe these things will. There are times even you feel what we call the spiritual dryness for those who are Christians. There are times you even want to pray, but there's no connection. During all these instances, that is where you need your support system to come in. Because of these experiences, you'll find that we take much more time trying to look for, sometimes the interventions that are spiritual, and in seeking the medical interventions because it is seen as, no, we have to fight this. In our family, nobody has ever said something like that. So you're not going to be the first one. So you need to fight. You need to fight. And so you find that if someone was to die because of giving up, getting to a point of feeling it is too much. If you look at even how sometimes the eulogies are done, we will say it was either sudden or short illness. We are still not ready, and we can't, because even the thought of it, as I think about it when I'm saying it right now, imagine the thought of it, of saying in the eulogy that somebody died of, it doesn't sound right. So it is still not something that we can easily say and talk about, because it brings a bit of shame. It is, it's shaming the family, but then how else can we make ourselves feel easier to say? We're not saying just be callous and just put it out there, because again, we have to protect our family and our images. But how do we help ourselves not to get to that level? And most of the people that we call hidden population, who are the people who are getting highly affected by suicide and not often spoken about? Think of your adolescents. They're under pressure. First, from you, the parent, to excel. Especially for us who are in it for 4, we want them to bring a certain grade. Now, school, they are waking up at 4 a.m. So they're under always constant pressure to perform. The grade is important. Then they come out here and they realize there is no jobs to land into. So they have done very well in their high school. They've gone through campus, and the disillusionment, lack of jobs. This is a hidden population. We are calling them Gen Zs, saying they're very creative, but we have that. We know well, besides going through all the education system, besides the economic situations that we are in, we also know the social media pressures they are experiencing, because almost everybody is out there showing how they are doing well, but we do not know how they are doing it. This is a population that is greatly affected. In fact, the WHO puts the second number that causes deaths among these 15 to 21 is suicide. Second cause of death after an accident, it's usually suicide. So there is a need also to check with your children. How well do you understand your child? Without the mask of their phones, do you have a connection with your child? Would you be able to say that you know your child? That you can tell when their moods have changed, not because of adolescent, no. You can actually tell, no, this child of mine used to be jovial, and now I'm looking, they're getting with the drone. These days, we are seeing our teenagers are not leaving the bedrooms, but it's your house, remember? You need to know when they're not leaving the room. I meant they're not leaving the room. If they're not leaving their rooms, what have you put in place for you as a parent to know that you understand what is happening in that room? That you can actually tell when your child is retreating to their own space because either something happened to them and they don't know how to tell you. Parents, I hope we are not having the transactional kind of relationships where we are providing for our children and we are very, very absent until they don't know us. If these kids of ours were to give a story, a legacy story, what will they say about us? That you are present. We can also be very present in the house and very absent in their lives. because you're there, you're present with your phone, they are present with their phones, but do you have a connection? At one time, you sit with them and understand what they're going through, the circumstances that they're experiencing among their peers, the molestation that happens right under our homes. But because we are not present enough for them to trust us, they're not saying. Then when they are giving up, we get to surprised and say, I didn't see the signs. But the question is, how close are you to your child? Yes, it's okay, we are waking up to go and provide, but how many hours would you say you spend with your child? How many hours do you have a heart-to-heart conversation with your child? Would they come to you if they're in trouble? Would they trust you if they were in trouble? This is one of the hidden populations that even WHO has seen to be the most affected population. The other population that is a hidden population is men, and I've talked about the silence and masculinity, the cultural expectation, the stoicism. I like that it is changing because we are seeing more men coming out and sharing their experiences. That's something worth celebrating and saying bravo to. But we still need to do more. We still need to talk to our boys so that when we are raising boys and they are going through pain and we are telling them, men don't cry. So what are we telling them? That you suppress your emotions. So if men shouldn't cry, then these are the same men we are saying when they are of age, they still can't express their emotions because culturally, men shouldn't cry. But is there a better way to still raise these same boys with allowing them to express their emotions without them being weak emotionally? Those are some of the things that we need to explore so that we empower them and make them feel they're still human enough to express when frustration set in. The elderly, because also when they're growing older, they are depending on their children. Children have moved from the villages and now they're in the rural looking for a livelihood. So parents sometimes also feel the burden of keeping asking all the time. So sometimes we assume that our parents are very strong because they don't talk. But remember that this is the time they start getting their chronic illnesses. They're going through loneliness because they have an emptiness. Maybe they have lost their spouses, so they're alone. And as we are very busy, we go home with December, peke yake, if we are given permission to go home. So you can imagine also for them, loneliness is also a source of, someone feeling like it is not worth it. It's like a burden to people. And these are some of the areas that go underreported because, especially the elderly, because we assume they are always strong. See, they were strong and they have gotten to this age. So when it happens again, sometimes it's covered under some illness. Professionals in high responsibility jobs, we know these too well, the high career flyers, the pressure to deliver, especially with these changing economic environments. It is too much. We have seen that in some places, and this is information in the media, where somebody is doing very well, they're A-stars, but the pressures of the jobs they're doing sometimes, becomes a situation where it compromises on their mental wellness. So what are we going to do, yourself and I? Are you able to spot and tell I'm having a problem? I can be with you, talking with you, laughing with you, and then you're surprised that you didn't even think there was a problem. But what are some of the things you may notice? I will talk to you as a parent today. If you notice that your child is withdrawing and previously they were jovial, be concerned. Don't say it's adolescent. Adolescent doesn't come with keeping quiet. It has its own other things that look like power struggles, but get to see when they are withdrawing and how that withdrawal is not the normal situation. There are people who keep telling you, by the way, kuna siku mtaamka mnikose. And there's always like a history of struggling with something, either said or not said in a very subtle way. Sometimes some of these jokes, if someone that you own or you know about them, you may need to maybe take a bit of interest. This works better for people that you probably have a history with. Giving away belongings usually happens in the last, when somebody has actually what we call the intent. They already know the intent to commit the suicide. So they're already planning, they know even the means. That is when you see them giving. There are people who actually sit and they plan. But there are people who, because of the depressed state, they don't have the plan, the intent, but they have the ideation. They start thinking, what is that one thing that I can do that can quickly end this misery? Those who have intent, on the other hand, they will give away their things because for them, they're already prepared for the next transition. And you and I, we don't need to be a therapist to save someone else who is going through the struggles, these are that are very silent, that makes you feel the pain with yourself and feeling like it's no longer worth. But I've said, let's listen without judgment. Are you able to do that? You know, are you able to? Sometimes you usually say, if we have these conversations around suicide, we are giving people ideas. Not necessarily. It is also in the how you ask about it. First, without making the other person feel like you're, provoking. There's a provocative way of asking something that someone would actually get offended. If you're asking from a point of care and concern, in therapy, we usually ask, have you considered or thought of, the desire to end your life in a way that you make them feel respected when you're asking. And that way they can just tell you, yeah, me from where I am, I honestly don't see the reason to leave. And sometimes you continue probing to find, and you're thinking how do you intend to do that? And they might tell you, and they might even tell you, I had bought those pills. It's only that I've been scared, and you want to find out where are those pills. Ordinarily, in a therapeutic setup, we will do a contract. We call it a no-suicide contract, where we say, if I'm going to release you from here, you need to assure me that you're not going to do anything related to that unless you reach out to me first. That way, it makes you assured that in case they get to feel that way, they are going to reach out to you. And you, as a person closest to them, give them that assurance that I'll be here. Show me where they are. You take them away from them. And then you keep observing them and being present. And where necessary, please remove them to the nearest facility for them to be able to get support. There's something we call the postvention. This is one of the things that is really discussed when it comes to suicide. And postvention is how suicide affects everyone around the person who is affected. That could be the family and the communities. There are those who will attempt and it is successful. There are those who will, that is what we call death by suicide. There are those by attempting, they do not successfully go through the process. So they'll get admitted, they go through the rehabilitation and they come out. Now, when they come out, they have something called the survivor's guilt. Because now they're wondering, how are people thinking about me? Do people think I'm weak? Their esteem starts just going down. How you reintegrate someone who has attempted suicide and they have recovered after rehabilitation in a hospital? They also need a lot of love, care and support, not reminding them, unataka kufanya vile ulifanya last time, ndio shidange hapo umetupatia stress. Your words could also be the reason they wish it was successful. So the postvention for suicide cases is also very, very important so that they can also be able to reintegrate, they can feel accepted, and they can live a normal life. So even when there is a successful where we see people that died by suicide and the families that are left behind, caring for those that are left behind, it also has its own mental health anguish. Because sometimes the people judge themselves. Is there something I missed? Is there something I could have done? And even what is the community around you saying? So that one becomes also a pain point, a severe pain point for the people who are left. Let's also be people who will reach out to others with a lot of love and care, even to those who are affected, because for them, they have a lot of questions and a lot of pain. that they'll never be able to find answers. So be the man who builds hope. Because I've seen stories of resilience. I've seen people who are sharing their stories of how they have recovered from the thoughts, from that negativity, from the shame and the stigma. But it has to take you and I to be that person who uplifts the other, to be that person who is present and deliberately and intentionally present, not ile ya kusema, if you need me, call me. No, be present in a way to say, I'm here, and keep showing up. That way, if you actually could even disrupt a plan because you keep showing up and therefore they have no room to execute. You just need to keep showing up. Sometimes they don't need resources. All they need is someone to talk to and give them hope. That's the man you need to become, a man who listens. And mental health is not about weakness. It's about humanity. All of us are going through a thing or the other. There's so many various things we are going through. Some are giving us new ways of doing things. That's what we call resilience. We get the mental agility to be able to withstand and tomorrow face it and tomorrow face it. But not all of us have the same capacity because maybe previously we have faced so many setbacks until it is stopping to make sense why I have to keep living life like this when everybody else seems to have figured out their part. So be the person to show up and say, I may not have the resources, but I'll be present. What do you need from me? Sometimes people don't need the money. All they need is show me the way, show me the path that I need to get out of this place. And everyone can be a bridge to life for someone else. And thank you very much. And I return the meeting back to the host.
Yes, thank you so much, Nancy, for that. I'm sure by now each and every one of us is able to, in one or another, identify, catch the signs early on, and also teach yourself with grace, in the sense that if it has happened to you, not really putting the thoughts in your mind of you could have done or you could have, maybe it was just out of your control. So thank you so much, Nancy. Truly, truly appreciate it. I'd like to open the chat. I can see it's 8:48. I believe it was a really great session, really informative, and just making us aware of how to support, and also, even if it is you who is struggling, how to seek help as well. So if you have any query or a comment on the matter, feel free. You can either unmute, chat to us, it's an open forum, or you can just raise your hand and then unmute and talk to us, or chat if there's anything specific you'd like to know. Chat to us. Is there anybody? Nancy started by asking, what's your story, as she shared with us her story as well. Maybe you have a story of your own and you learned from the situation and what happened, and you'd also like to share briefly with us in the next 3 minutes. If there's anybody, please feel free. Is there anyone, or if up to there we're good, you can drop a thumbs up. Oh, Janet. Yes, Janet. You can unmute and talk to us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the informative session that we've had. At least now we know how to look out for people who are going through issues in life, and especially even the people around us, because most of the times they go like when someone is going through something, and especially mental or even emotionally, it's difficult to tell. And especially in this era where everyone is using their phones. So you find that maybe I'll just chat you on WhatsApp and just ask you, how are you doing? And you will just tell me I am okay. But in real sense, you're not okay. So it's good to maybe an emphasis, if you have family, just try call, at least just call, because sometimes it can be deceiving when you just chat someone. And yeah, I actually have friends who are suicidal, and you find that most of the times when they are going through something that is heavy in their life, they deactivate their accounts. If it's on Instagram, they delete all their pictures and everything. So when you really have someone who's going through something and you understand them, it's easy for you to to approach that issue and know how to assist. But sometimes most of us go unnoticed, and that's why you, like she mentioned, you find that someone just committed suicide, and you're like, what happened? That person seemed okay. But yeah, it is true that people are really going through a lot, and sometimes they don't just share with everyone. So when you keep tabs with someone, it is easy for them to open up. So thank you for the informative session. I really get touched to be in conversations like this. Thank you a lot.
Wow, thank you, Janet. Thank you for sharing that with us as well. Um, yes, Rebecca is saying it has been insightful and let us remain kind. People are going through a lot, and that is quite true. You never know. You never know. Especially having work and people with their own families. You just be, sometimes you find you don't have time for your social life and stuff like that. Even a phone call could go a long way. Could go a long way. You never know. I'm sure maybe some of us have called somebody and the person is just relieved and is grateful that you called and checked up on them. Anybody else? I can see Sarah has commented that it is a sensitive topic and it's an elephant in this digital era that everyone seems okay. True, true. I think usually the natural response when asked, how are you doing, feeling like you don't want to overburden or to overshare, is that I'm okay. McCreen is asking, how do you bounce? How do you just like something? How do you bounce back? How do you bounce back
How do you bounce
after?
back after withdrawing for some time?
Yes, yes. I don't know if Nancy is still in the chat. She was having a bit of an issue with her network. Alrighty. This may be an ambush. I don't know if Esther, and I can see conversation with Esther has chatted that is very informative. Let's learn to ask for help. asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Esther, if you're still with us, kindly, I'd appreciate if you could respond to Macreen if you're able to.
Thanks, Kayla. I know the guest would have done this much better, but I think it's just what the guest said. Ask for help, and let's be accommodative. You see, let's also not victimize people asking, where were you? You stayed away. I think we need to be very sensitive. I've learned that sometimes we are not very sensitive to what we say.
Mm-hmm.
We need to choose our words very well so that we can accommodate people that are going through tough times. If you've been withdrawn, I've handled very many cases of people that have been withdrawn, and it's very difficult for them to show up, because also of the stigma. Where have you been? Are you stressed? And sometimes we ask people, are you depressed? Honestly speaking, it's I don't think that person is in the right state of mind to answer that question. But I think for the person, you just show up the way you are. Of course, you may not be able to show up publicly just at once, but one day at a time. Show up on social media if you wish to. You don't have to. By the way, social media is not a legal requirement. You don't have to be on social media. However, withdrawing completely from social media, as someone said, I have seen people who just shut their systems, shut everything, um, um, and they just keep quiet. They don't respond to calls. They don't respond. Now you need to know how to check on such a person. But for the specific person, please ask for help. Please ask for help. Because you can be in a crowd, but you're still lonely. You can show up, but you're still carrying the burden. So ask for help. Talk to someone you feel cares, someone you can trust. Hang around people that don't blame you for being away. I don't think you need to be blamed at that moment. Just hang around people that you're safe with. Just go to the safe spaces. And let's also provide a safe environment for people that are going through tough times. I think that's all I would say, Scarlett.
Thanks so much, Esther, for that. I think, Macreen, I believe that has probably shed some light on the matter. Yes, Janet, talk to us.
Thank you. So maybe just to add to what Esther has said, I'm not an expert in this, but sometimes even when you're going through a lot, I know we might be from different denominations, but even prayers help. There's a time I was going through a lot. It didn't get to a point where I felt suicidal, but I was just feeling stressed up. And sometimes prayers do help. Just take your time, because if you decide to go out, maybe sometimes you don't even have the money, and the people around you might not understand. So even just getting down on your knees and just understanding, or just taking your time to read things, it helps to distract your mind. Try as much as possible, distract your mind even by watching. You can listen to preachings, or even listen to something of your interest, and that can distract your mind from thinking about what makes you get down, or what is trying to pull you down. Also, if you're not a really, really social person, you can try talk to your family. If you don't have family, you might have one friend, or just two. Try talk to them. Yeah. It really helps. Sometimes you don't have to go out. You don't have to because these are things that will require you maybe to have money, or even when you go there, you might not be able to solve your problem entirely. So just sometimes it's good to rely on God. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. I think with all that's been said, I don't want to take away from and I don't want to add anything. I believe tonight has been a really good session, an important one. I can see also Esther has commented, take walks, listen to positive music, messages, exercise, and even call up that friend can really, really crack you up. It has worked for me, honestly. And thank you so much, all of you, for being a part of the conversation tonight. And even to our speaker, even in absentia, but I think it was a good session, it was a powerful session, and we look forward to having you even see you in our other sessions next week, especially next Thursday, same time, same place. We will be talking about your gut health, nutrition, what are you putting into your body, and how it impacts you as a person wholly. I think that is really, really another really great session, honestly. And we don't want to just talk about dieting, what not to eat, So if you have the time, join us next Thursday as well. We have really great speaker for that as well. And I would like us to wind up. A volunteer maybe to help us and close the session with a prayer. We truly appreciate. You can just raise your hand in case